Hello, sixth grade. It is Thursday, or Friday Eve, as I like to say it, and it is November 12th. And we are reading the Pinballs. We are going to read chapters 10 through 13 today. And where we left off yesterday, Carly and Mrs. Mason, Mrs. Mason was trying to teach Carly how to sew. And then Carly started asking her questions about why she didn't have children. And she explained to her that her body just wasn't able to produce children. So they thought about adopting, but then they were asked to foster, and that's how it came to be. And so now they're on, like I said yesterday, numbers 18, 19, and 20 of their foster children. And then Mr. Mason and Thomas J. were on their way into the hospital to see the Vincent twins. So we're going to pick up with chapter 10. Thomas J. sat beside Mr. Mason on the front seat of the car, sliding a little on the plastic covers every time the car went around a curve. He had never visited anyone in the hospital before, and he had a dread about it, so that means he was worried. "Why don't you take them some candy?" Carly had suggested. "That's what I'd want if I was in the hospital." "They don't believe in candy," Thomas J. had answered. Carly had stared at him like he didn't have good sense. "Don't believe in candy? How could they not believe in candy? There's Mounds, Mr. Goodbar, Hershey's, Sweet Tarts, Jujubes. I mean, I can understand how they wouldn't believe in ghosts or something, but candy? How could anybody not believe in candy?" "They just don't. They don't believe in soda pop. They don't believe in chewing gum." "Whoa, they are nuts." She had paused, then grinned. "Or don't they believe in them either?" As Thomas J. sat there beside Mrs. Mason, he wished he did have a box of candy on his lap. One of those big silver wrap boxes of candy he'd seen in drugstores with a bow and a plastic rose on top. It would make it all easier. "Here's something for you," he would say. And they, who had never believed in candy, would be overcome. It would be like people who didn't believe in heaven suddenly finding themselves floating upward. They got to the hospital and walked slowly down the green halls. It was an ugly green to Thomas J., nothing like the greens of nature. Suddenly, Thomas J. remembered the garden. He remembered the twins working, feeling the tomatoes, pulling off dead leaves, lifting their heads to the sun. He stumbled in the hall. "It'll be all right," Mr. Mason said. He put his hand on Thomas J.'s shoulder, not to push him forward, just to help him along, like planes refueling in the air. 320. "This must be the room," Mr. Mason said. They entered together. The Benson twins lay in side-by-side beds, and beyond them was another woman reading a magazine. Thomas J. moved between the twins' bed. The twins didn't look like themselves. They had gotten thinner. They hardly made wrinkles in the covers. "Hi," Thomas J. said. "Thomas J., is that you?" "Yes'm." He had been afraid they wouldn't know him. Sometimes at home they had forgotten him. He would go in for supper, and there would be only two places set at the kitchen table. "Why, Thomas J., one of them would cry, "we forgot all about you. Go get yourself a plate." "I'm here for a visit," he added. "Sister, it's Thomas J. I see him." There was a silence. Then both twins reached out their hands to him. He could never remember holding their hands before, and it made him feel strange. He glanced over his shoulder at Mr. Mason. "Have you been back to the house?" one of the twins asked. "Not since I left." "What?" He turned back to the twins. "Not since I left." "Don't let things go down." "No'm." "The peas are just coming in." "Yes'm." "You got to can the peas, Thomas J. You've seen us do it enough to know how." "I don't remember, though. I don't even know where the jars are." "We'll stop by on the way home and check on the peas," Mr. Mason said. "Get Papa's gold watch," one of the twins, Jefferson, said. "You know where it is." "Yes'm." "If people know it's there, they'll break in and steal it. Might have already." "Yes'm." "And the gold coins, there's 3 of them. You know where they are." "Under the mattress?" "Under my mattress," Jefferson said. There was a silence. Jefferson closed her eyes. Thomas J. cleared his throat. "How are your hips?" he asked. "They operated on us, put pins in." "Oh." Now both of them closed their eyes. Thomas J. took one step forward. He still held their hands. Suddenly, he wanted to ask about that morning long ago when he had come tottering up the road. He felt as if this might be his last chance. He had asked them for details before, but all they had said was, "You just come up the drive. That's all to tell." But what did I have on? Oh, let's see. What was it, sister? A diaper and a shirt? Do you still have them? The diaper and the shirt? At the time, he had thought there might be a clue there, a laundry mark or a name. No, we used them for dusting, but I do remember there was a dog's picture on the shirt. A dog? Because I've seen him on TV. What's his name, sister? You know who I'm talking about. Lassie? No, a cartoon dog. I'll think of it in a minute. He's white with. But did you go out to the road and look for cars? He asked, interrupting. Sister did. Did she see anybody? No. An accident or something? There wasn't a soul in sight. Later one night, when he was watching a Halloween special on TV, one of the twins had cried, "That's the dog. That's the dog that was on your shirt when we found you." It was Snoopy. The twins were asleep now. Their hands slipped from Thomas J's. Thomas J took a step backward and bumped into Mr. Mason. "Well, we might as well go, Thomas J," he said. "All right." At the foot of Jefferson's bed, even though he knew they couldn't hear him, he said, "I hope your hips get better." That's the end of chapter 10. Chapter 11. It gave Thomas J a sad feeling to go into the Bensons' house. It seemed emptier than a house without any furniture. He got the watch and the 3 coins, wrapped them in a handkerchief, and put them in his pocket. Then, without looking at Mr. Mason, he said, "I want to see how the peas are." He went to the back door, but he didn't even have to step outside to see the garden was ruined. There had been no rain in 3 weeks, and the leaves on the plants were yellow. The vines were shriveled and dead. There were no tomatoes. He and Mr. Mason looked over the sad scene. Mr. Mason said, "When you write the Bensons, I wouldn't mention this garden. It isn't likely they're going to see it this year anyway." "I won't," he paused. "I couldn't." When they were in the car and almost to the main road, Thomas J turned and looked back. "Wait just a minute," he said. Mr. Mason stopped the car. "Anything wrong?" "No." Thomas J felt like this was the last time he would ever see this house. He wanted to imagine himself walking up the drive in a shirt and diaper. Lost, abandoned, dirty, tear-streaked probably. Being left behind had to make a baby cry. He tried to imagine the twins waiting on the porch, arms outstretched, then hurrying down the steps to hug him in his dirty shirt and diaper. He couldn't get a picture of it. "Let's go," he said. They were halfway home when they remembered about the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Harvey was on the front porch waiting for them. When he saw them get out of the car without the red striped boxes, he felt like crying. He rolled himself back to his room and sat staring out the side window. There was nothing to see there but an uncut field. "What's wrong with you?" Carly asked from the door. "Is the sight of me and my new halter too much for you?" "Leave me alone." "What if I don't want to?" "Leave me alone." Carly took 2 steps into the room. "I can't," she said. "I get curious about what's bugging people." She sat down on the bottom bunk. "That's because I'm going to be a nurse when I grow up and treat mentals. I'm not a mental." "Huh, that's what they all say." "Will you get out of here?" Carly stretched out on the bed, her chin resting on her hands. "Tell me what's wrong, and I'll decide whether you're a mental or not. Pretend I'm a nurse with a long beard. Tell me all." Through clenched teeth, Harvey said, "If you must know what's wrong, is that I wanted some Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I'm not going to get any." "They didn't get the chicken?" Carly cried, sitting up. She was disappointed, too. She liked bought food much better than home-cooked. "I was really looking forward to that chicken." "Not like me." "Now we'll probably have hamburgers," Carly said, "and they won't be Big Macs either. You can bet on that. They'll be cooked." "Carly," Mrs. Mason called, "give me a hand, will you? We're going to grill some hamburgers in the backyard. It'll be like a picnic." "See what I tell you," Carly said. "I'll probably get grease all over my new halter, and I really worked on this thing too. You saw me." At the door, she turned and said, "I've judged your case, Harvey." She grinned. "You are not a mental." "Thank you," Harvey said. After the picnic, Carly wanted to cheer Harvey and Thomas J up, so she said, I wish I had somebody to take my picture. Nobody answered. Thomas J. sat without looking up. In his pocket was the Benson's father's watch and the 3 gold coins. He had never felt a heavier burden. Harvey didn't look up either. His hamburger had tasted like sawdust. He wanted chicken more than ever. They're having a Sonny and Cher look-alike contest, Carly went on, and I want to enter. You don't look like Cher, Harvey said. I know. I'm going to be Sonny. Sonny's a guy. She waited. There was no reaction. Oh, you guys, she said in a disgusted voice. What do I have to do to cheer you up? Go in the house, Harvey said. She spun around and looked at him. She grinned. You know, Harvey, maybe there's hope for you after all. So Harvey had a little comeback for her this time. Chapter 12. What's the list for today? Carly asked, sitting down on the back steps. Oh, it's a list about disappointments. Not another one. That's what your lists are all about. I have never done this list before. It's called Gifts I Got That I Didn't Want, Harvey said. You know, like I was expecting one thing and got something else. That's the story of my life, Carly said. I expected a floating opal 3 years in a row, and you don't see it hanging around my neck, do you? There was a pause, and then Carly said, What bad gifts did you get? Well, they weren't exactly bad. Some people would have been pleased with them. But when my mom lived with us, she promised me a puppy for my 10th birthday. He paused. I really wanted that puppy. He paused again. My mom and me would look through the newspaper at night and read the ads together, you know, like Cocker Spaniels wormed and ready to go. It was the happiest time of my life. I wanted every dog I read about. I couldn't wait for the paper to come at night. I'd sit out on the front steps and wait for it. So, Carly said. Harvey looked down at his legs. So, my mom left home right before my birthday. She left on the 6th, and my birthday was the 17th. I thought only fathers left home, Carly said. I lost 2 that way. Wish it was 3. And after that, Harvey went on, my dad wouldn't get me a dog, no matter what. It was a matter of principle. He got me it was sort of an electronic football game. You had to turn knobs to keep the other team from scoring. Is that how you broke your legs? Carly asked, looking at him sideways, turning those knobs. Harvey ignored her. And then that Christmas, I decided to get a guinea pig. I really still wanted a puppy, but I knew better. And anyway, a guinea pig was something else my mom had promised me. She raised guinea pigs when she was little. One time, she had 27 of them. She wanted to sell them to make money, but she couldn't bring herself to part with them. Woohoo, that tells you something about people, doesn't it? They can't stand to part with stinking guinea pigs, but they'll throw their kids around like straws, Carly said. Harvey went on. Anyway, I told my dad I wanted to buy my own Christmas present, and he said, fine with me. And I went out and got a guinea pig, a big white one. I named him Snowball right there in the store. I know what's coming, Carly said. And I got the cage, food, everything. And I brought him home, and my dad took one look at him, grabbed him up, and carried him off. He said it was a matter of principle. He never would even tell me what he had done with Snowball. Some people. To make up for it, he bought me a snooker pool table, but I never played with it. Matter of principle? Carly asked. She grinned at him, but he didn't answer. Thomas J. cleared his throat. He said, Every Christmas, the twins gave me a present. Both Carly and Harvey turned and looked at Thomas J. Thomas J. had never learned the art of talking because the Benson twins didn't say much. Sometimes their entire daily speech was, water's boiling, and Cronkite's on, and I'm turning in. Therefore, it was always a surprise to Carly and Harvey when he joined the conversation. What'd they give you? Carly asked. Well, one time it was pencils with my name on them. Oh, boo. That's the kind of thing you get for good behavior, Carly said. Or a present from your teacher. How would you know? Harvey asked. Carly grinned to herself. Go on, Thomas J. Well, one time it was gloves, and one time it was a book. Big Bible stories for little people. Thomas J. fell silent. He remembered sitting beside one of the twins while she read the stories to him. He could see her gnarled finger holding the place on the page. His favorite story had been about baby Moses being sent out in a basket by his real mother to a better home. When he heard that story, he always imagined his own mother waiting by the road, hiding in the poplar trees, waiting to see the twins take him in. He wished he had thought to get the book while he was at the house with Mr. Mason. Suddenly he looked up. Oh, yes, they also gave me 3 gold coins. Real gold? Carly asked. He nodded. If I was you, I'd rub them against my skin. If your skin turns green, they aren't real. That's how I found out about my earrings. They turned my ears as green as that grass over there. Lunch, Mrs. Mason called. Woohoo, Carly said, getting up. Don't tell me she managed to get lunch on the table without the slave of the world to help her. Things are looking up. So in Harvey's describing the story about the matter of principle, it's not like a principle at your school. It's like your principles that you go by within your own conscience, okay? So Harvey wouldn't play with the pool table as a matter of principle because his dad took Snowball and plus never got him a dog. And the dad was saying a matter of his principles because he was angry with the wife, wouldn't get Harvey a dog. Chapter 13. After lunch, Harvey persuaded Carly to push him to the library. It's mostly uphill, Mrs. Mason said in a doubtful way. I don't care, Carly said. Harvey and me want to get some books, don't we, Harvey? Carly was willing to go anywhere and do anything. She was bored. It's very steep. The library's all the way at the top of Oak Street. I know where it is. And you won't take your hands off the chair for an instant? Look, glue my fingers to the handles if it'll make you feel better. I just want to be sure. She put her hand on the back of Carly's neck. And you'll be extra careful crossing the street? I'm always careful with valuable things. Thank you, Harvey said. She poked him. I meant myself. Mrs. Mason looked at them. All right, but you be very careful, Carly. Woohoo, you'd think we were going to the North Pole. They set out for the library with Carly pushing Harvey in a slow, rhythmic way. I'd like to give Mrs. Mason a scare, wouldn't you? Carly asked. We could get a dummy, dress him up in your clothes, and push him down the street. I'd run after the wheelchair screaming, Mrs. Mason, help, help, he got away from me. I'd do it if it wasn't so hot. Mrs. Mason's all right, Harvey said. Well, she hasn't done us in yet, Carly kept pushing. That's what I'm going to do a list about, people who have done me in. If you did a list like that, how many people would be on your list? Don't give me every name, just guess at it. Harvey thought of his mother and father. 2, he said. I'd have, let's see. Carly pushed the chair slower as she thought. First, there would be my father. I don't know who he is, but he'd be first on the list. You don't have a father? Harvey asked, looking back at her. Of course I have a father, she snapped. Everybody has a father. The lowest dog in the street has a father. Didn't you learn anything in health and hygiene? She stopped to ease his chair down the curbing. I just never knew my father. He left before I was born. But my second father, he would have to be your stepfather, Harvey corrected. He was a step down anyway, Carly said. He was a real bum. Number 2 on my list of people who have done me in would be that stepfather. Before he left, he even stole my babysitting money. Harvey was silent. Then my third father, stepfather if you must, he was the first person who ever wanted to do me real harm. You're always hearing how dangerous the streets are and how you're going to get mugged or hit on the head. Well, in the streets, I was perfectly safe. It was when I got home that I got mugged and attacked. Harvey said in a quiet voice, my father ran over my legs. That's how they got broken. He spoke so quietly, Carly thought she hadn't heard right. Ran over them? She stopped pushing the wheelchair altogether. Yes. Ran over them? Yes, in the car. Her shoulders sagged. Oh, wow. He said he couldn't help it, which is supposed to make everything all right. He said he got mixed up on forward and reverse, but he was drinking. Oh, wow. Yeah. There was a silence. Then Carly said, just think about this, Harvey. You and me, unborn babies, here we are, see, waiting to be born. And somebody comes up to us with a pad and pencil and says, what do you want in a father? Well, we'd list all kinds of things. I'd say I want a father who's good looking. After all, Harvey, half of your looks come from your father. And I'd say I want a father who is rich and one who loves me. I'd go on and on. She rested herself against the back of Harvey's chair. Never once would I think to say I want a father who will stick around. Harvey, he didn't even wait to see if I was a boy or a girl. He doesn't even know I'm me. She sighed. And you? Never once would you think to say I want a father who will know the difference between forward and reverse in a stupid car. She started pushing again faster. I think that's the library up ahead, Harvey said. And then, Harvey, to make matters worse, here we are, totally unwanted. I think we have to admit that. And then there are people in the world who really want children and haven't got one. Life is really unfair. Harvey smiled a little. That's something I have suspected for a long time. And that's the end of chapter 13. Now, why do you think that Harvey wanted to go to the library? Would there be some reason? There is. And we'll find out tomorrow. So when Carly said there are people that want to have children and they just can't, who would you guys say that she was referring to? So she may have a little bit of a heart after all. She's not totally mean. All right, you guys have a thrilling Thursday. Please go to Google Classroom and read your stream page. I have 2 messages this morning, one for everybody and one specifically for virtual students. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.